It is Monday, February 9th, 2026. Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan coming out this weekend and spilling the beans on the upcoming midterm elections, what they're doing to try to stop President Trump, what they're doing to cut his agenda off completely mid-administration. Whitmer pressed on details, and she suspiciously says, well, for certain reasons, I'm not going to divulge anything further. Now, we have a copy of this interview. Before we play it, keep in mind, this is the governor of one of the most important battleground states in the country, refusing to say publicly what these people are up to, what she's talking about. President Trump, meanwhile, moving heaven and earth to secure the upcoming elections. Big moves happening behind the scenes right now to thwart any funny business in November, specifically what Tulsi Gabbard's been working on. People wrongly think she's only looking backward, focusing on uncovering what happened during 2020, but from what we understand, that's not her primary focus. The project that Tulsi's been working on has been kept very tight to the vest. A very small group of trusted people know what she's working on until she was spotted at that Fulton County raid. That tipped their hand, and now they've been coming after her with everything they have. Trump tried warning everyone about this last week in that video he posted, and the media, of course, losing it, completely flipping the narrative when they saw what he really posted, making it about Trump being racist because of the video including the Obamas. Well, there was a short piece of that video that was super relevant, important, which most people have completely overlooked because of this new narrative the media put out. Let's start here.
No, I looked at it, I saw it, and I just looked at the first part. It was about voter fraud in someplace, Georgia. There was a lot of voter fraud, 2020 voter fraud, and I didn't see the whole thing. I guess during the end of it, there was some kind of a picture that people don't like. I wouldn't like it either, but I didn't see it. I looked at the first part, and it was really about voter fraud in and the machines, how crooked it is, how disgusting it is. Then I gave it to the people. Generally, they look at the whole thing, but I guess somebody didn't, and they posted, and we took it down, and we turned it, But that was a voter fraud that nobody talks about. They don't like to talk about that post. We took it down as soon as we found out about it.
So the Trump administration working on all cylinders to secure the 2026 midterm elections. We saw that with the Fulton County, Georgia election hub raid 2 weeks ago, with DNI Tulsi Gabbard taking part in that raid, the top spy in the U.S. intel community. Very odd when you think about it, unless she's working on stopping an active foreign threat to the homeland, a foreign nation interfering in U.S. elections would most definitely fit into Tulsi's job description. Well, we'll show you in a minute what we've learned. First, to put this into context, the Trump administration, like we said, they've been working around the clock to secure the midterm, stop any funny business any bad actors may be planning. For instance, we've seen them begin forcing states to clean up their voter rolls, then the Fulton County raid 2 weeks ago. Also, Trump pushing hard to get the Save America Act passed through the Senate, and possibly the smoking gun evidence involving Venezuela, where the arrest of Nicolas Maduro may possibly provide real evidence of foreign interference. But one thing that caused an uproar in mainstream media last week was Trump's suggestion that the federal government should run elections in at least 12 states, maybe 15 states. States who the president says are trouble zones, cities like Philadelphia and Atlanta that are ripe with corruption, he says. Even the sheer suggestion of the feds overseeing or taking over the elections in these areas sent the media into a tailspin.
And then what exactly did you mean when you said that you should nationalize elections, and which 15 states are you talking about?
I want to see elections be honest, and if a state can't run an election, I think the people behind me should do something about it. Because, if you think about it, a state is an agent for the federal government in elections. I don't know why the federal government doesn't do them anyway. But when you see some of these states about how horribly they run their elections, what a disgrace it is, I think the federal government, when you see crooked elections, and we had plenty of them, and by the way, we had them last time, but go to 2020 and look at the facts that are coming out. Rigged, crooked elections. If we have areas Take a look at Detroit. Take a look at Pennsylvania. Take a look at Philadelphia. You go take a look at Atlanta. Look at some of the places that horrible corruption on elections. And the federal government should not allow that. The federal government should get involved. These are agents of the federal government to count the votes. If they can't count the votes legally and honestly, then somebody else should take
But the
over.
Constitution says it should be states that
Go
administer
ahead.
elections, Mr.
Yeah,
President.
they
That's what the
can, you know
Constitution
what?
says.
They can administer the election, but they have to do it honestly.
So why is Trump saying this? What just happened that's got him so concerned? Well, besides the fact that a federal judge just signed off on a criminal warrant against Fulton County, Georgia's election hub, besides that, maybe it's all the noise around high-ranking Democrats like the governor of Michigan, a super important battleground state, one of the most important battleground states, going out and saying stuff like this. Roll the tape.
What do you assume the president's approach is? He's talked about redistricting, gerrymandering, but do you assume that the president will be doing more to interfere, from your point of view, with the results?
I think it would be a mistake to assume that they're not going to. So I don't know precisely what it is that they might come up with, but we've got smart, sophisticated, savvy people around the tabletop that we will continue to get prepared.
Some people spin out theories and they will say, well, DHS is everywhere, Homeland Security people are everywhere, and they might be used in some way.
I don't think it's paranoia to have that concern.
Why do you think Michigan has been spared compared to some other states? Minnesota, California, which have had National Guard on the streets and everything else that we've seen.
You know what? First, I'll just say, I appreciate the work that my colleagues in Illinois and California and, of course, Minnesota are doing. They are under extreme stress, and I stand in solidarity with them. I will also say that our approach in Michigan is to try to keep the temperature down, to keep open lines of communication, and that's what we're going to continue to do, and hopefully we'll continue to be successful. But I know in these moments there's a lot of unpredictability, and so we're on high alert.
Do you have you said other than just being prepared, do you have a task force? Do you have a group of people who are studying this? Do you have, how are you preparing?
There are important reasons that I'm not going into a whole lot more detail on that, Steve. I think, I'll just leave it at this. We've got some brilliant folks who are working on this, and we will be prepared.
Governors are talking? Democratic governors are talking about this?
Yes.
I want to ask one other thing about this, because I'm remembering that in 2020, the president very specifically tried to bend the electoral votes coming out of Michigan, asked for help from Michigan Republicans in the legislature, and ultimately didn't get it. Michigan Republicans refused to go along. Do you have confidence that the other party in this state would stand with the results once again the next couple of times?
I know that there are good people in the Republican Party that would. I don't know if the whole party leadership would. I don't know what to anticipate coming out of the Oval Office going into the election. But that's why I'm really glad that right now we got a Democratic governor that's going to be overseeing a lot of it going into this election. And it's why I'm going to work so hard to make sure that we have a Democratic governor elected this fall as well.
And look, the Trump administration's second term has been organized, methodical in ending this globalist system. We saw how scared they were at Davos a few weeks ago. Trump returning the U.S. back to its roots, a revival of the American system. And the elites are panicking over this. You can't deny that. Because they know, as of now, there's not much they can do to stop him. They don't have a stranglehold on him like they did during Trump 1.0. He's got all of his people where he needs them to carry this mission out. All they can do now is try to stop him in the midterms. If they have any shot at stopping the full revival of this country, they need to win the midterms. And I saw something very interesting the other day. Trump-hating political hack David Fromm on the Atlantic's podcast, A Vessel for the Deep State, and they said this. Keep in mind, this is a couple weeks before the ICE chaos in Minneapolis even began. Watch what they said.
And in Texas in particular, for example, what they aim to do is move some more Democratic voters out of Democratic districts, and in fact to try to flip some of the southern Texas districts that have been, to many people's surprise, moving toward the Republicans, even though they're heavily Hispanic. But that kind of assumed that the voting patterns in that community would stay the same as they were in 2024, when Donald Trump won a very substantial share of the Latino vote all over the country. The ICE raids, the brutality, and all these other things we've seen seem to be pushing that community back toward, in a sense, more traditional partisan landing spot in the Democratic Party.
And we saw this come through with what just happened in that special Texas election. A district that should have been safe for the Republican was won overwhelmingly by the Democrat candidate. I really think they plan all this out, folks. It's all done on purpose. They war game this stuff out. Like Gretchen Whitmer just said, we have some of the most savviest political operatives in the world working on this, working on how to win the midterms, try to cut Trump's agenda out at its knees, which brings us back to what Trump posted last week that just so happened to have a short clip of the Obamas in it. Trump has since taken that video down, and unfortunately, we're not going to play it here. You can still find it out there, though. It's all over social media, talking about what they found in some of the Michigan voting machines. Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, again, that's what the president posted on Truth Social. Now, on top of this, probably the most single important thing that they're doing to secure the upcoming midterms is with the Save America Act that President Trump is trying to get pushed through the Senate. And it looks like we may have some movement on this. Democrats are now being urged to jump on board with this law, get involved with the bill, and try to make some of their own modifications to it, negotiate. After all, it's not just Republicans who want this. 71% of Democrats support voter ID, and for good reason. Just in today, a federal jury has convicted this Colombian national, Lina Hernandez, an illegal alien in Boston, of voter fraud after she used a stolen identity to illegally vote in last year's presidential election, in 2024's election. I wonder who she voted for.
Voter ID heating up on Capitol Hill. A jury just convicted a woman in Massachusetts of voter fraud. Prosecutors say that she also stole more than $400,000 in federal benefits. White House correspondent Aisha Hasmi reports live from the North Lawn. Hi, Aisha.
Hey there, Martha. We're talking about a 59-year-old illegal immigrant who's been in the country for years, stole someone else's identity, and then voted in the 2024 presidential election. Take a look at this photo here. This is Lina Maria Orovio Hernandez. In this picture, you can see her, Martha, wearing that I voted sticker that we all get when we go to cast our ballots. She's also convicted of stealing $400,000, as you mentioned, in benefits. She apparently used her fake identity to obtain multiple state IDs and also a passport. So the president this morning, on Sunday, posted this on Truth Social. America's elections are rigged, stolen, and a laughingstock all over the world. He is calling for voter ID, proof of citizenship, and bans on mail-in ballots as he supports the SAVE Act on Capitol Hill. That's a Republican-led voter ID bill that is expected to hit the floor of the House this week. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is claiming the bill is just an attempt by Republicans to rig the midterm elections.
The question is that what Republicans are trying to do is to engage in clear and blatant voter suppression. They know that if there's a free and fair election in November, they're going to lose.
Okay, but not all Democrats out there actually feel that way.
And now, me as a Democrat, I do not believe that it's unreasonable or to show ID just to vote. And I remind everybody that less than a year ago in Wisconsin, they added that to the Constitution by a 63%. So it's not a radical idea for regular Americans to show your ID to vote.
Martha, you know how this works. Even if it passes in the House, it has to go to the Senate, where it faces a numbers problem, which is why you have so many Republicans in the House now calling senators to blow up the filibuster once again.
And that's not the only instance of this. We saw what happened in Alabama in 2024. 3,000 or something illegals somehow registered to vote
3,000 registered voters in Alabama just got booted from the state voter rolls. That's after the Secretary of State, Wes Allen, ordered the removal of all non-citizens who were registered. But how did non-citizens get registered in the first place? WAFF 48's Nick Ballinger spoke to the Secretary of State to get to the bottom of this story. Nick?
Yeah, Margot, when I asked Secretary Allen how these people got registered to vote in the first place, he couldn't give me a clear answer just yet, saying it was still being investigated. But when he gave me a breakdown of how many there were in each county, the numbers were glaring. This is a list from Secretary of State Wes Allen of how many non-citizens were registered to vote in our counties. The state found 3,251 people. 742 of them were from North Alabama.
We got the information. We cross-checked it against our centralized data file here in the state of Alabama and found those 3,200 individuals.
If it happened in Alabama, I can only wonder what California looks like. All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe. We'll see you real soon.